Hi, this is Penny Kelly, and this meditation, titled Understanding Consciousness, is the second in a series of meditations designed to heal the Pacific Ocean of the effects of radiation from the Fukushima nuclear disaster. A brave soul named Walter Mora felt he had to do something, and so he began inviting people to come together in KINS groups to talk about what we might do to help. And these meditations came out of those meetings. So I'm going to start by briefly naming the stages and describing the process by which we move from the source state into full physical existence. Then we'll do a little guided meditation that gives you some sense of how you actually came to be. So the first stage, the original source of all things, is mind space. Mind and space are like two sides of one coin. Mind is the awareness property of space, and space is the location aspect of mind. And mind space is infinitely expandable. When mind space begins to move, it becomes consciousness and energy. This is the second stage. Consciousness is the feeling aspect of energy, and energy is the motion of consciousness. And consciousness energy is infinitely creative and powerful. The third stage arises when consciousness energy begins to compress and to become intelligence and particles. Intelligence is the information aspect of a particle, and a particle is the signaling center of intelligence. Intelligence and particles are infinitely cooperative. And the fourth stage appears when intelligence particles begin to organize, to become thought patterns. Thought is the maintenance property of a pattern. And a pattern demonstrates the sequence of thoughts that created it. Thought patterns can be maintained indefinitely. So remember, there is no death. There is only life. So now, begin by getting comfortable. Either sit down or lay down somewhere, and then take 3 deep breaths. These are full body breaths in which you breathe in and feel that breath in your chest and your belly and your hips, your thighs, your lower legs, your ankles. Feel it all the way to the tips of your toes. And don't forget your arms, your hands, and your fingertips. And when you're completely full of breath, then breathe out completely until you're empty. Then breathe in a second time, fill your entire body, even feel your low back expand and your armpits, and then let it out completely. And then a third breath in, all the way through you, your spine, your knees, your teeth, your toes, and then breathe out. And after that, just breathe in your normal way, just your ordinary breathing, but remain relaxed and aware. And we're going to take a little journey that repeats some of what we just said, but in an experiential way. So close your eyes and imagine that you are a teacup of water floating in the depths of space. Space that is absolutely empty. It's black, it's endless, it's completely silent. And then feel that teacup tip over. And you, the water, are flowing out of the teacup in every direction. You're flowing out to become space itself. And you're not just floating in space, you are space. You have no body, and there's no other people and no planets, no wind, not even a speck of dust. There's no weather, there are no objects of any kind. Yesterday and tomorrow do not exist, and there are no concerns about health or life, ethics or morality. You don't even have any curiosity or questions. There's no sense of waiting, no worry, no boredom. Except for the billions of pinpoints of light spread out in every direction, there's nothing to see. And thus, there's nothing to want. To say that all your needs are filled would be to miss the point completely, for there is no such thing as need or want. You are in the state of pure awareness, and the only thing you're aware of is, I am. Nothing more and nothing less. Because there's no one to complain to and nothing to wait for, this condition of basic awareness is a state of complete and total fulfillment. It is ecstasy and existence. You are mind. You are space. Silent, peaceful, eternal, with nothing but the awareness that you exist. Mind is the awareness property of space, whose only attribute is awareness. And so, you are total awareness. An endless, silent, peaceful, blissful ocean of space. Suddenly a force comes rolling through you, pushing and pulling and moving and lifting you. It creates waves and whirls and streams of motion in what was formerly total stillness. The power of this force transforms you into the vibrant, shimmering motion of waves that roll and dip and rise and crest and roll again. And from now on, you will go by a new name, that of energy. In your conversion from space into energy, you leave the silence of mind with its single awareness, I am, and you enter the condition of consciousness. In doing so, you move from the non-dual silence of pure existence to the dual experience of I am, and something's happening to me. You're now aware of two separate things. One, that you exist, and two, that you are in motion. And thus you've taken the first step away from the quiet bliss of oneness and have moved into the energy of consciousness. As energy, you are a sea of motion, and you will wend your way as a wave, fluid, swift, shimmying, vibrating, undulating, and tumbling at different speeds and in different directions, on, endlessly moving, wrinkling, pinching, and fiercely stretching the fabric of your being. And as your intensity mounts, the power of your own seething motion increases until, in some areas, you become densely compressed. Your motion slows down. In fact, you can hardly move at all. You feel compacted, pressed upon. You feel heavy, solid. And suddenly you realize you are no longer just energy moving crisply about. You have edges. You have boundaries. You have transformed again, now into a particle. As As a particle, you feel weighty and massive. Your body does float along on the waves of energy that weave and churn endlessly through space. And you are definitely different. A tiny speck of matter with mass and dimensions. You are still aware that you are existing, because that's embedded within you. And you are still conscious of motion. Yet now you are a physical form. You have some unique boundaries, a specific spin, a cycle of movement, and some possibilities that you couldn't have imagined before this transformation. So you drift, and you float, and you spin. You carried on waves of consciousness energy back and forth, and up and down, and this way and that, until, boom, without warning, you collide with something, and you discover there are others. Your path and those of neighboring particles have crossed in a head-on way. Collisions abound, and you are bombarded from every side. Some just hit and bounce away, and others drift nearby, just outside your boundaries, while still others cling to you, changing your speed and your weight and your direction and even your very sense of self. And as you attempt to deal with this new state of being and its situation, you discover that the characteristics of your mind have also changed once more. You can communicate. And what you communicate is information and intelligence about yourself, about what you are and how you move and what you're capable of and what your position is. You realize that you have been swept into fields of tangled and densely compacted waves accompanied by an assortment of other particles. So, you all huddle about. You're unable to swim back through that fine, frothy net of wave frequencies to where the rolling waves of energy swell and dip. And, being together, you begin to communicate with one another, signaling your presence and what kind of motion you're capable of. And as you communicate, you cooperate, and slowly you realize you are changing again. You no longer feel like a single particle caught in a net of energy waves. You're one of many particles now communicating, working together as one being. Together, you form a unique pattern of particles, fields, and waves of frequency communicating and cooperating in an exquisitely balanced arrangement. And as with the other transformations, you find that your mind has also transformed once more. You no longer have the relatively simple intelligence of a single particle. You are part of a powerful and highly interactive process called thought. Millions of particles gathered together into one composite pattern gives the whole group of you access to an immense amount of intelligence and thought that can be used to work together, thought that can be used to maintain yourselves, thought that can be used to reproduce, or to duplicate what you've created together. And you realize that your pattern contains all the knowledge needed to begin creating matter. And that other patterns, even if they're vastly different from your own, have the same knowledge and the same capacity. So you set about looking for those patterns that you especially enjoy, or those that you can learn from. And you hold the secret potential of being able to connect with others in a way that will create an entire reality system filled with a feeling of joyous movement and communication and all kinds of cooperation in new ways, ways that will allow you to maintain and help others to maintain. It's an eternal existence of perfectly balanced energies, particles, and patterns of being. So from this new vantage point, you can look back now and see that you began as an undifferentiated mind space with the only simple awareness of existence. And then you began to move as a wave of consciousness energy and to experience feelings and the motions of duality. Next, you suffered the pressures of transformation to the state of a particle with its inherent intelligence and the capacity to communicate. And then you transformed into an exquisitely complex pattern capable of interactive thought and the ability to maintain the self via that thought. So this is the passage and the process of how we move from source to a physical world like the one we live in. Deep within each one of us is the power of mind with its capacity for life. And all of that springs from the awareness that I am. Also within each of us is the great power of consciousness. For this is the power that moves all energy. Keep in mind that you are also coded to communicate and cooperate, and that natural thought is what maintains you as an individual form. So make a commitment to align the external thought of the everyday with the internal thought of the deep self that keeps you alive and well. Keep all of this knowing with you and start returning to the present moment. Be aware that the nature of your existence is such that you have the capacity to recognize and know all things, to communicate with all things, and to help restore the original thought of all things, thus healing and being healed as needed. And before we close, since we have gathered to nurture, support, and heal the great Pacific Ocean, send a small message or thought to our friend the Pacific and tell her that you have not forgotten her, you haven't abandoned her, and that you and a few others are gathering the energies needed to help her restore her own healthy patterns, and thus to heal and return to full function. Imagine dipping your fingers in her waters, and then flowing out from your fingertips, see a stream of great love that will fill that entire ocean. Love that will let her know we're there, that she's loved, and that will comfort and hold her in the meantime. Fill the entire Pacific with that love. And then slowly return your attention to your physical body, to the room you're sitting in, and to the world of the everyday. Take a breath and stretch, and take a few minutes to return fully.